Join Boise State Public Radio for a concert with blues guitarist and vocalist Coco Montoya at the Treefort Music Hall in Boise, February 13th. This concert is in honor of longtime KBSU DJ Arthur Ballinger, who is retiring after 47 years. Doors at 6, concert at 7 on the 13th of February for a night with Coco Montoya at the Treefort Music Hall. Details at boisestatepublicradio.org.
I'm Gemma Gaudette. More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. Last week, the Department of Defense announced it would no longer honor cultural awareness months, including Black History Month, which is celebrated in the month of February. However, a coalition that includes the Idaho State Museum, Idaho Black Community Alliance, and Irma Heyman House is going forward with events to honor the contributions of Black Idahoans. So joining us now to talk about Black History Month in Idaho are Nicole Inglaterra, the Idaho State Museum Curator of Collections and Exhibitions, along with Tanisha Eastman Dotson, the Cultural Sites Program Coordinator for Boise's Irma Heyman House. I want to welcome both of you to the program.
Hi, Gemma.
Nicole, let me start with you. What is the Idaho State Museum doing for Black History Month? Because my understanding is you have a special exhibit guide.
Yeah, so our education team is really fantastic, and they've created a history trail that highlights the stories of Black Idahoans throughout our history, throughout our permanent exhibit. So that's really a signature offering this month. And then, of course, with Tanisha's partnership and the Irma Heyman House, we're able to bring that exhibit into our pop-up space, which is really fantastic.
Tanisha, for folks who may not be familiar with Irma Heyman, remind us who she was and her home that's become this beautiful space.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking, Gemma. Irma Heyman was a wonderful woman who we like to view her as the matriarch of the River Street neighborhood, centered right here in downtown Boise. She lived in her home for 61 years. And so she saw a lot of the transformations that happened within this neighborhood. And her home, thankfully, has been memorialized to keep both her legacy alive and well, and also the story of the residents and what they experienced. As I said, the neighborhood went through a lot of transformations, and so we have the honor of telling those stories daily.
And Tanisha, talk to us about this pop-up exhibit that has been put together by the Irma Heyman House.
Absolutely. So the pop-up exhibit is called The Voices of River Street, A History of Urban Change and Community Strength. And it's focused on the time period of 1940 to 1972. And so this pop-up features historic photographs, oral history interviews, and some archaeological artifacts. And you'll see those in the mobile exhibit, at least in pictures. At the house, we have the full thing. But it focuses really on the residents' perspective of the different transformations that happened within the neighborhood, what community was like, what childhood was like, what culture was like in the neighborhood.
You know, Tanisha, you mentioned that there was so much change in the River Street neighborhood over the decades. And part of this exhibit even focuses on how things like the New Deal and even urban renewal impacted the neighborhood. Could you talk to us a little bit about that and really why it was important that all of this information was put into this exhibit?
It's very important to have all of this information in the exhibit because a lot of the residents who lived within the River Street neighborhood were impacted by some of these things. Urban renewal, especially, a lot of them, we had opportunities under the New Deal programs. This was a working class neighborhood. And so a lot of these individuals were in this neighborhood to take care of their families, to, make a living for themselves. And these other things that were happening outside of their control, they were also navigating at the same time.
So what I think is so interesting too about the Irma Heyman House, about this exhibit in particular, is that I have lived in Boise for a very long time. I did not know much about this area, even though I drove by it numerous times a week, really until there started being renovations on the Irma Hayman house. I would think that I am not the only person who had a lack of that history. So with that said, you actually have oral history interviews as part of this exhibit as well.
Correct, Gemma. And you're not the first person who has come in and has said that. A lot of Native Boiseans have said that they weren't familiar with the River Street neighborhood, or even the Irma Hayman house.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is really, really cool. One of the aspects of this exhibition is that we did get to include a lot of oral histories. We're very gracious to the families who have lived here, who wanted to lend their stories to us for this exhibition, and also for us to just keep and nurture and to share with others. So yes, at the Irma Hayman house, you can actually hear directly from the residents who used to live here and their experiences.
Nicole, let me bring you back into the conversation because the Idaho State Museum, you want to collect some artifacts from folks, right? So can you tell us a little bit more about this initiative?
Yeah, so part of what we're doing this month is really asking the community to share what they can with regards to artifacts with the State Museum. So I like to say that it's pretty difficult as a museum to tell stories about people you can't represent physically, because there is something truly remarkable about three-dimensional objects. They are the things we carry through our lives with us, and they have a unique power to connect us with our past. So this is an opportunity for us to help fill that gap on behalf of the people of the state of Idaho from the state board. So it's really an opportunity for us to ask if people have family members that they want to connect us with, or community members. We want to make that connection happen, and hopefully find some of these items a home within the state collection so that we can add to that story and make the collection that much richer in representing all of us as Idahoans and our different journeys here.
And Nicole, what happens with the artifacts after you've gathered them all up?
Yeah, so they're stewarded by the State Historical Society. And of course, we are a full service agency, so we also include the Idaho State Archives. So photos and the like are welcome too. But for three-dimensional objects, they come to my division with the Collections and Exhibition Department, where they're made available to researchers, to descendants. We actually have descendants come and ask pretty frequently for access to materials like that. But it means that they have a home forever. And we really do try to respect that and make sure that nothing is lost and such. So that they're here for the community going forward. It's always hard when a family member passes away, and there's the question of what happens with grandma's piano or something along those lines. So this is really an opportunity for us to make these resources available to Idahoans.
And Nicole, before I let both of you go, the museum is also hosting an evening with Dr. Sidney Freeman Jr. with the University of Idaho. Can you quickly tell us when this is and what he'll be talking about?
Yeah, so this is February 6th. And of course, we're really grateful for the Irma Hayman House in partnership with this. That's the date that the pop-up exhibit, the Mobile Voices of River Street, is going to be open in our pop-up gallery space. But he's really talking about so global and local intersections, and really leveraging his research, which is absolutely fascinating. And of course, he and Sheree Buckner-Webb are going to be hosting this for us. So we're really excited to have them there. And please go to the Idaho State Historical Society's website, history.idaho.gov, to learn a bit more about that.
Well, I want to thank both of you so much for coming in and talking with us about this. We've been speaking with Nicole Inglaterra, the Idaho State Museum's Curator of Collections and Exhibitions, along with Tanisha Eastman-Dotson. She is the Cultural Sites Program Coordinator for Boise's Irma Hayman House. We've been talking about Black History Month here in Idaho. I'm Gemma Gaudette, and this is Idaho Matters.
Whether Boise State Public Radio brings a smile to your day, some inspiration, or a greater connection to Idaho and the world, we're proud to be here with you. Federal funding, about $1.60 per person annually, helps keep these trusted services strong and accessible to everyone in our community. Learn how you can safeguard local public media stations like ours by visiting protectmypublicmedia.org.